It's BC for Get Lowered, and today we are installing 1-inch lowering blocks from LA Choppers on a Harley Davidson Dyna. Yep, you heard that correctly. This is a Dyna. As you can see, it's a Dyna Fat Bob, actually, 2017. This is my wife's ride, and she loves the stock suspension on it. The problem with it is she can't comfortably flat-foot the bike, and that's an issue primarily in slow-speed turns or when she's trying to back the thing up. So instead of spending all the money to replace the stock shocks, which she actually really likes, we're just going to take the cheap route, and hopefully it's the easy route as well. We're going to install a set of 1-inch lowering blocks from LA Choppers. The LA Choppers lowering blocks are really solid, nicely powder coated, and should install in just a few minutes. As you can see, I've got the bike up on a lift right now. There's no need for that. You don't have to have a lift to do this job. You just have to have a way to get that rear wheel up off the ground. So I'm going to take my scissor jack, put it underneath the frame, and get the bike up off the ground just a little bit in order to release the tension on that rear shock. The first thing that the instructions tell me to do is that we're going to loosen this bolt just a little bit. Then we're going to take out the bottom bolt, and when we've got that bottom bolt taken out, that'll allow us to rotate the shock up out of our way and then lock it back in place with the top bolt. Now that the shock is out of the way, we can take the lowering kit and set it in place. Just kind of rests on the swing arm here. And we're going to hand tighten this bolt just about like that. Now I did use some red Loctite on that. I'd suggest that you do. Now as you can see, the actual shock mounting location isn't any lower than it was before, but the difference is that because it has to mount further back, when we lower this bike back down and line this hole back up, it's actually going to reduce the overall height of the shock without changing anything else on the suspension itself. Now on the right side of the bike, the instructions tell you to do basically just the opposite of what you did on the left. We went ahead and removed the lower bolt here, and I loosened up the top bolt, which allowed me to swing the shock out of the way. I'm going to tighten that back up and actually get it out of the way, and then we'll go on for the lowering block on the right side of the bike. Here's where things get a little bit tricky when you're reading through the instructions before you're actually doing this procedure, but it'll make perfect sense once you're doing it. There is actually a nut that we removed on the other side, and it didn't say to do anything with this nut, so I've just kind of had it sitting around. Now the instructions said that once I removed this lower bolt in this shock, that I was to reinstall it right back into that hole. And that's because once that's actually bottomed out there, I can slip my lowering block right over, just like that. And then I can reuse this nut from the other side to lock it into place. As you can see right here, there's actually a pretty good gap between the lowering block and the swing arm itself, and that's on purpose. You leave that nut behind here just finger tight to enable you to rotate this so that it's nice and easy to put the bolt back in through the shock. Once you've got it done on that side, you can move back over and do it on the left side. Same story here. I've got a little gap here because I've got this one just kind of finger tight, and so now it's time to let the bike down nice and gentle. We want to go ahead and get these resting onto the swing arm where they're supposed to be, and then we can go back through and tighten everything up and torque it to spec. There you go. As you can see now, nice and solid. I've got solid steel resting on solid steel, so it's not going to go anywhere. So now it's time to go back through and tighten everything back up. There you have it. It's still a Dyna Fat Bob, but now it's a Dyna Fat Bob 1-inch lower. And honestly, I guess if I've got to have any complaint, it's going to be about their choice of hardware. So let's take a closer look. They chose to use anodized hardware, and so now I've got this kind of coppery brass thing just hanging out on the bike. Not a huge fan of that, and I'm a little disappointed in their choice to do that, or, not include a cap or something. So I'm probably going to come back out and hit it with a little bit of Plastidip or some kind of cap, I guess. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a little disappointing. That said, for the price, this little 15-minute job produces some pretty incredible results. Now, obviously, because we've lowered the back of the bike and we haven't changed the front of the bike, it's going to change the rake in the trail a little bit. So if you're really familiar with how your bike rides, then you're going to have to take a little bit of time and get used to how it feels with the new suspension setup on it. Now, as you can see, the bike's dirty. I guess I should probably wash the thing since it's, I don't know, maybe a week old. But first, I'm going to run it down the road. I'm BC for Get Lowered. Check out the full line of suspension products for your Harley motorcycle at getlowered.com.